Hello, everybody, and welcome to another spicy, red hot episode of the Chocolate Bros podcast. I don't know how long it's been since we've done one of these, Brian, but how long?
Not long
Can you
enough.
get? You want to guess?
Not long enough to cool off the sizzle of you coming in hot to the beginning
No,
of the podcast. Woo!
it's always laced with blazing red
Mm.
hot heat, Brian.
Much like our cayenne pepper apricots that we sell in our retail store, you came in hot with a warmth that builds.
Well, in case you're listening to this podcast and you really have no idea what you're listening to, and you just kind of stumbled upon it, let me go ahead and do a brief introduction, Brian. You're here with Adam Pearson and Brian Horsley. We're brothers.
Yep, he's Adam. I'm Brian.
Yep, and we are co-owners of the company Fortunato Chocolate. Check it out at fortunatochocolate.com. Go ahead, Brian. You seem like you want to chime in on that.
No, you know what? I'm just out of practice. I'm rusty over here. I'm stepping on you. I'm trying to add when there's nothing to add. You just go ahead, Adam. You're doing a great job. You're doing yeoman's work over there. So continue.
Appreciate it, bro. All right, I will go ahead and do that. At fortunatochocolate.com, we have a variety of chocolate products. We have been in the chocolate business for going on 15 years now. Young Brian here lived in the northern Peruvian jungle, going back and forth every 2 weeks for around 10 years. Overseeing a team of individuals who bought and processed a rare variety of cacao, built and operated our cocoa bean processing facility where we did fermenting and drying, and then we send cacao from Peru to Switzerland to have it made into chocolate. We distributed chocolate to high-end restaurants for a real long time, and now we sell directly to the public. We have a kitchen in the Seattle area in a little suburb called Issaquah, Washington, where we hand make a whole bunch of confections. And that gets you from point A to point B. Brian, anything to add?
No, I think the podcast over. I think you've said that.
So everybody go buy some chocolate, and that's
I would only add that when you said I was going back and forth to the jungle in Peru, I was going back and forth from the high Andes Mountains at about 9,000 feet altitude, where I lived at the time with my beautiful Peruvian wife and my two kids. One kid at the time we started it. Down to the low Amazon jungle where cacao grows, because cacao is a tropical hot weather plant that doesn't grow at high altitude in the Andes Mountains. So that was an arduous trek, as they say. But yes, other than that, you nailed it, Adam. That was the most concise sort of elevator pitch version of what we do that could possibly have been made.
Brian, a little hot geography talk for our
Let's
listeners.
do it. Let's take a deep dive. And I think those that haven't met us before are going to find out that we like to take a deep dive. And those that know us well know that we are apt to take a deep dive on almost any subject at any time.
I don't know what I find myself very fascinated by logistics.
Mm-hmm.
I think logistics is an underappreciated field of study.
Befitting an accountant who's literally wearing a sweater vest right now. Yeah. I think your intense interest in logistics is apt.
I think it's underappreciated how much logistics is actually the key driver that supports all of human civilization. I think it's lost. It's lost on most people, the fact that everything we depend on to stay alive depends on logistics, and almost nobody talks about it or thinks about it.
You could say that going back through the course of human history, which is defined by conflict between nations, tribes, people, etc., the logistics of getting your fighting forces to the fight and the material to support them has arguably been more important than how many fighters you have and what they do once they're there. It's undeniably underlies the course of human history. Logistics, yes.
Love it. I'm going to add to that, but I don't want to get off track because we're going to go down a rabbit hole. All right, now you said Cajamarca is in the northern Andes.
I didn't say that. That is where it is.
Did you not say that? I thought you said that.
Well, I mean, I'm not just saying it because that's my personal opinion. That is where it is.
Oh, that's what it is. But you did say that too, right?
I may have also mentioned it.
Because you could say stuff and it could be true. They're not mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually exclusive. Typically, the things I say are true. So yes, you're right.
So you said it, and it is a fact in reality. I didn't mean to suggest that you were just inventing things, right? It's a fact of reality, and you said it.
Are you calling me a liar, bro? We just got on this podcast. It's only been like 6 minutes.
I just realized I called you a liar, but the way I was describing a lie was really roundabout. There's already a word that described what I was trying to say. No, I didn't mean to call you a liar.
All right, good. Let's continue.
Then where we buy cacao is east of the Andes, right?
Well, so there are...
Or it's in the eastern foothills of the Andes Mountains.
No, so geographically, you're incorrect. Technically, where we buy our cacao is what's called an inter-Andean valley because it has a high mountain pass to the west and east of it It is a western adjunct to the low tropical Amazon basin. But to get to the lower part of the Amazon basin, you do have to go back up over mountain pass.
Whoa. Wait a second.
Yes.
Wait a second. You're stepping on the point that I'm trying to make here, Brian.
Well,
So
if the point doesn't conform to the geographic facts, then is it really a point?
Let's just back it up. Back it up.
Beep, beep,
True,
beep.
true or
Up.
false? True or false?
Yes.
The city of Haiyan
Mm-hmm.
is on the eastern side of the Andes Mountains.
It's in an interandean valley so it's not technically on the eastern slope of the Andes. No, there is a high mountain pass to the east of it.
But is it okay? So what's the pass that takes you from the west side of the Andes to the east side of the Andes that you go across to get to Haiyan?
There are to the west of Haiyan and to the east of, so moving up east from the coast of Peru, which is a western facing coast, the west side of South America, you go up over a pass which is called the Abra Porcuya, and you go up from the coast. You get to this really cool mountain pass, and you drop down into a river valley, and you wind down along that river valley, dropping and dropping and dropping in elevation as you go, until you finally get to the turnoff for Haiyan at a little place called Chamaya, which is 17 kilometers from Haiyan. And once you get to you take that little 17-kilometer road, you kind of go up and over a ridge line and drop into a really low, hot, jungly valley, which contains the city of Haiyan.
Okay, now when you go through Abra Porcuya and you start to descend in altitude as you just described.
Correct.
In what direction are you heading?
Due east.
So it is east of
absolutely.
Mountain Pass. All right, well, however, that's what I was trying to bet. You were splitting hairs with me.
No, I'm not splitting hairs because.
Oh, you were splitting hairs. There was hairs being split. You were splitting hairs.
No. I don't. Do I have a hair to split? I mean,
no, but there were hairs. There's hairs in between us being split.
I mean, I guess could be like hair from the shower drain or something.
It's a philosophical hair. It's philosophical hair, Brian.
This is a concrete geographical fact I'm about to point out. I just told you that you head east along this river valley, and then at a place called Chamaya, you turn off to go to Haiyan. You turn off and go due north.
North.
If you continue east on that highway, which is called the Fernando Belaunde Highway in Peru, if you continue due east on that, you will begin to rise again. And you will go over another high mountain pass.
I see.
You will drop down into the city of Tarapoto, and then you will continue. If you then continued 3,000 miles due east, you would be in low Amazon basin.
Fair enough. So we're right. So what we're talking about is the width of the Andes Mountains.
That's right. Well,
it is very wide. So it's not like you could just drive over one peak and then you're out of the Andes.
That's right. There
are a series of peaks and valleys that you have to go over.
That's correct. And so the principal height of the Andes is to the west of Haiyan. You're absolutely right. And so you're already dropped down into tropical Amazon jungle by the time you get to Haiyan. It's just that it's considered.
It goes back up again.
Well, it's kind of considered the upper Amazon basin, not the lower Amazon basin, and there's a difference.
Well, and here's the whole point I was even trying to make there was you can't just go east from Cajamarca to Haiyan. You got to go all the way down the western face of the part of the Andes that you're in, down to the coast to Chiclayo, and then back up into the mountains through another route. Yeah.
By the way, Haiyan is geographically due north of Cajamarca. It's not to the
north.
East.
Correct.
It's due north.
But you have to go west, but you can't just go northeast. You got to go all the way back down.
That's right.
And then all the way back up.
That's correct. You have to go up over a pass, which is called Abra. Abra is Spanish for pass. The Abra, right? Abra el Gavilan.
You're talking about near Cajamarca.
Going out of Cajamarca, you go up over the El Gavilan pass, and then you drop down a tortuous, windy, maybe 85 switchbacks going down the steep part of that. And then you go out to the coast, turn north, go through Chiclayo, continue north for several hours, turn right or east, go up another crazy windy road up to another high mountain pass, which is even, I believe, a little higher than El Gavilan. Maybe it's not. And then drop down and get into the jungly part. Yep, that's absolutely correct. And you're at about 4 degrees south latitude there. So very, very.
And how long's that ride?
It's about 6 hours to Chiclayo and another 6 hours to Haiyan. And then from Haiyan, you got to go another hour and change out to where our facility is.
And that's like perfect in a perfect world. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. That's if there was no traffic or construction or landslides or whatever it might be on the road.
And then, so when you were living down in Peru full time, before you moved to the United States, how often were you making that trip?
Yeah, anywhere from 2 to 3 times a month. No, that's
Wow.
not true. Some months it would be one because I would go and be there for 3 weeks. So
He'd be there for 3 weeks.
1 to 3 times a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
A lot, too much.
so that's this dude.
If anybody wants to write in with questions about Peruvian bus rides, I mean, I've got the answers for you. I'm a man who knows what it is to ride long distance buses in Peru. I can tell you about the 15-hour bus ride from Cajamarca to Lima. I can tell you about the 24-hour bus ride from Jaén to Lima. I can tell you about the 14-hour bus ride from Jaén to Tarapoto. I can tell you, Adam, about the 20-hour ride south from Tarapoto through Huanghui and all the way to Tingo Maria. I mean, I've got the Peruvian bus ride knowledge base nailed. If anyone wants to know,
one of the world's probably one of the world's leading bus authorities when it comes to traveling around Peru on a double-decker bus.
I mean, there probably aren't any gringos that know more about it than me. I got to say
English
that.
speaking, one of the English leading Peruvian bus authorities in the world today. On this podcast, on the Chocolate Bros podcast.
Absolutely. One of the foremost authorities. If anyone, I'm telling you, just write me, Brian at Fortunato Chocolate. I'll answer your Peruvian.
Yeah. If you're taking a bus somewhere in Peru, Brian's the guy to ask.
Absolutely, get in here with those questions.
So here's actually, you know what? I was gonna throw out another Peruvian geography fact, but I'm gonna skip that. But anyways, so we've been doing this chocolate thing a long time. So that helps you kind of understand the genesis and how much traveling was necessary to get the chocolate business up and running. But that was like 15 years ago when you started doing that.
That's right. That's how much traveling it took me. And now we haven't even touched on the traveling that the cacao beans do. I mean, we've touched on it previously in our podcast, but in this conversation, we've not touched on the traveling that the beans do to get to where they're made into chocolate, and that the chocolate does to get to where it's made into confections, and that the confections then do to get to the customers that are anxiously waiting for them.
All right. Now talk to me, Brian, about when the harvest season happens.
Typically,
I already know, but talk to the listeners. Explain it to the listeners. Adam, talk to me. Talk to the
Adam,
listeners.
let me tell you how this works, Adam, because you clearly have forgotten all about this. So, no, it goes with the rainy season. Like most agricultural products, cacao is made from a bean that grows on a tree. And so those trees, in some parts of the world, they produce fruit year round, but mostly not. Typically, there's a big harvest and a little harvest. Where we are, there is some production year round, but basically there's one big harvest, and that harvest typically takes place from at the earliest late November, and at the latest it could go all the way till July or August, depends on the rain pattern for the year. And then typically August, September, October, and November are hot rain and hot, dry summer months down there. Even though it's in the southern hemisphere, everything is it's so close to the equator. It just more has to do with
pretty much hot. Yeah.
The air it's hot all the time, but it's rainy. It's hot and rainy sometimes. It's hot and dry at other times, and that all depends on air coming off the Pacific and going up over the Andes Mountains.
Well, I've been getting some pictures from Oscar Ayala.
Oscar
Ayala Vasquez in Peru. Yep.
Are fantastic.
Been with us since the beginning, dude. I was just looking at some pictures of him from 15 years ago when he was just a young guy.
Handsome fellow, much like myself at that time, and now we're a bunch of old geezers. And
I think you're still pretty handsome.
Thank you. I agree. I agree with that, and I think you are too, Adam. But no, it's funny. I'm going to be seeing Oscar next month, and we just spoke on the phone this morning. And yeah, when we get together, he's got the bum knee now, and I've had my shoulders done, and we kind of reminisce about how young and vibrant we were when we started this thing, and now we're a bunch of kind of grouchy older fellas. But hey, we're still doing our thing.
Has Oscar become pretty grouchy over the years?
Well, it's just a natural consequence of a man getting older, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. You show me like an older, happy man. That guy doesn't exist.
I don't trust him.
You don't trust him.
I wouldn't trust that.
Yeah, like what are you so happy about, dude?
Yeah, exactly.
Something like going bald, your shoulder hurts. Like what's making you so happy?
About that. He's hiding something. He's pushing it down. At some point, it's going to explode. You know.
Yeah. What are you so happy about, that bum knee?
What are you
smiling so much?
Your bratty kids making you super happy today? Come on. Yeah. That's not right.
Yeah, that's not right. So right now, if I understood what you told me the other day correctly. Actually, before I get to that, I wanted to say Oscar just sent me some videos and some pictures about how heavy the rains have been out in Campo over the last couple of months, man.
Yeah, so
that's heavy duty, bro.
when we get an El Nino or a La Nina here in the United States, it has its effects, and it can, this year La Nina is having in some cases, devastating effect on California in
What's the
particular.
difference between a La Nina and an El Nino? One's dry and one's super wet.
No, El Nino is I believe it's a cooling of the the Pacific Ocean temperatures at a certain point in the Pacific Ocean. La Nina is a warming. I may have that backwards. It may be that La Nina is a cooling and El Nino is a warming.
Okay.
But it has to do with water temperatures in certain locations far, far, far out in the Pacific Ocean that influence the rain patterns and temperature patterns onshore, specifically on the west coast of North and South America. So California is getting hammered this year. So is Peru. Unfortunately, it seems like it's every 4 or 5 years, there are these torrential rains that hammer the west coast of Peru, that cause flooding, typically along the north coast, but it can affect the whole region. So right now, Piura in the far north, Chiclayo to some lesser extent, and the areas east of that where we are getting hammered by rain and are experiencing floods, mudslides, road washouts, bridges down, farms that get the topsoil washed away and their crops destroyed. It's a disaster, and it's a fairly common disaster that you can't really, I mean, even with all our first world infrastructure, in a wealthy state like California, there's not that much you can do. The rain comes and you can't stop it from coming, and then floods happen. Floods ensue.
You know what's kind of crazy, bro?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I think if you were to do a real philosophical deep dive, it points up the fact that charity and philanthropy and some kind of social safety net are pretty important. Even though I'm like a hardcore kind of free market capitalist,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you don't get to choose where you're born, you just show up and you're just somewhere. And it could be, you could be born to somebody rich, or you could be born in a place that's poor. You could be born in the United States. You could be born on a cacao farm. And if you're born on a cacao farm in northern Peru, like where we buy cacao, you just are subject to poor infrastructure and heavy rains. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you work, or you can work twice as hard as somebody in the United States, but your ability to get ahead and to fix up the problems that plague you are severely limited through no fault of your own, and it has nothing to do with you. You're just born there and subject to it.
That's absolutely correct.
On a philosophical level, there is just a justice issue. Like, it isn't right that somebody who was born privileged should have such an easier life than somebody who isn't. So there should be some kind of back and forth.
You don't even have to look as far as South America to find this kinds of things. I recall I was in the Army. I don't like to talk about it, Adam, but I have a distinguished military history, obviously.
Just delve into the distinguished part of that a little bit.
Well, I just want to, put it out there a little bit that if anybody wants to look back and remember, in the late 80s, you did not read about a single Russian incursion into the motor pool at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And that's because I was on duty, Adam. I was guarding the trucks, and they stayed safe from the Russian.
Can you tell me a little bit about the raisin moonshine that you guys made?
I cannot. Yeah. I cannot tell you anything about that.
It's classified?
It's classified information, Adam. I can tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Oh, yeah. I don't want that.
No, nobody wants that. I was in Louisiana. We would frequently go around to other states in the area, Texas and Mississippi specifically. And when you cross the state line from Louisiana into Texas, you'd be on a backcountry 2-lane highway in Louisiana that is absolutely brutal, filled with potholes, just an absolute mess, just a car destroying mess. And you cross over the state line, and all of a sudden, Texas at that time, at least, and in that place, had just smooth, well-maintained roads. If you went over to the other way into Mississippi, it got even worse. So just being it depends on that state's management and how their highway department works, So, and those kinds of differences just magnify them by, 100-fold based on the resources that are available to a poor state in a poor country in a place with massive, climate, massive variety.
It's just remote, climate. Like, it's just out there. They're just the only fix to the issues out there are government investments in infrastructure, like they built a bridge over the Chinchipe River.
Mm-hmm.
But if the government isn't spending resources out there's no way the folks out there have enough capital to put in new sewage systems,
right. So, and
build roads.
The governments are corrupt, inefficient, and resource starved, and what resources they have, they tend to siphon off into their own pockets. So that's when you get actually people do end up paying for their own. I mean, it's very poor, but if a road washes out over an irrigation canal, for example, there in Campo in northern Peru, many times a group of the farmers that are affected will get together and they'll make an informal rustic bridge made of like tree limbs laid across and
Yeah,
covered over with,
yeah,
oh yeah, you follow, go through them all the time until that washed out, because the government simply would not fix it, and they had to get the water to their crops and they had to get their product to market. So many times where the government is so massively unable to meet the needs of the people do have to band together. We financed the installation of a half a dozen bridges while we were working there intensively and personally in Campo, because the local government simply was not responding, and we needed to help our friends, the local cacao and coffee farmers, get their products out, including our own products.
Yep. And so this all comes back to what we started off at the top of this podcast talking about. I mean, these are all logistics issues.
Yes.
Yeah, and to a large extent here in the United States, I'd say probably, I thought about this a little bit, but maybe over the last 60 or 70 years in the United States, I think people have completely forgot where their food comes from. You just show up, just with the industrialization of food, you just show up and it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
But back
it's
behind the
already
scenes,
processed, picked, processed,
done. You show
individually
up,
wrapped. It's just right there waiting. It's ready to eat, as they say.
Here in the United States, we like on average, Americans throw away 40% of their food. It's just so abundant and so easily accessible.
I have a solution. I have a solution to that problem, Adam, by the way. Send you over to their house, because I happen to know from experience that if there's any food laying around, you'll wander in and be like, hey, you're gonna eat that? Because I'll take it.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. I'm gonna tell you something. From my time that I spent living in Peru, and like the influence of my Peruvian in-laws, because well, but for our listeners, my wife is Peruvian. I don't like the idea of throwing away food.
Oh no, food waste. Food waste is a crime. It's a crime against humanity. I will not allow it in my house.
It deeply bothers me. Yes. So I'll eat. I eat leftovers. Like usually what I will do now, so that I don't balloon up, is I just won't order anything. Like if I go out to a restaurant or something, I just don't order anything. And I just sit and wait, and then I clean up everybody else's plates.
Just dad tax the rest of everybody's.
Yeah, plate. I just eat off because I deeply hate to over order food. And then like you bring it home as leftovers, you put it in your fridge, it just sits there, and then you end up throwing away. It really bothers me. So yes, anybody you need somebody to come clean up the table, man. You invite me over to your house, man. I'll bat number 4 on the lineup and just clean it up, dude.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you come into the office on Thursdays, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're on Thursday number 86 in a row where you've come into my office and go, hey bro, you mind if I get some of this ham and turkey that's in the fridge?
I don't even bring lunch, man. I don't even bring lunch. I know, because in the United States, I just know there's going to be food.
That's right.
Around somewhere that might not get eaten unless I come around and do my civic duty, bro.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're a hero.
That's another thing in the United States that people have forgotten about. What about civic duty, Brian?
Yeah, well, some of us express our heroism on the military front, and others of us express it by going into the refrigerator at the office and just cleaning out all the food.
It's holistic. Yeah. It's holistic. You know what I'm saying? It's all part of the same kind of civic idealism.
We may have different definitions of holistic, but okay, go ahead. You're a hero, and let's.
Hey, we're splitting hairs again, Brian.
We're splitting hairs.
We're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing.
We are.
If you want to just seem right, you just accuse somebody of splitting hairs. Hey man, let's not split hairs.
That's right. Yeah, it's kind of the wider version of but still,
Yeah, but still, we're on the same page here.
Right.
So, right. How did we get on this topic of?
I don't know. You're taking us on a wild roller coaster.
No. Oh, okay, right. So
threads here.
No, here's how we got onto it, because I was talking about how Americans have kind of forgotten where their food has come from. So,
correct.
To a large extent, especially food that is imported from other countries, which is a lot. Which is a lot of food.
A big percentage of what we eat. That's
a lot of this stuff is being sent to us by people who live in conditions similar to what we're describing. There's these farmers out there.
Not directly, typically. Typically, there are value chains that require several steps of intermediary to get the product from the farmer who grows it to the
actual raw materials are growing on trees somewhere. And to the extent that it's imported, you probably have these farmers out there living in extreme environmental conditions with poor infrastructure, they're working out under the sun 12 or 14 hours a day, and then we're showing up at the grocery store and just eating the food. I I think it's helpful to know that just for the sake of gratitude.
Yeah, that is
Just to know that
undeniably.
someone worked hard to make
That's right.
that food possible, and you should take it. You should have some respect and have some gratitude for how
That's
easily you got it.
undeniably correct. So if you go to, for anybody who's listening, if you go to your your Publix or your Piggly Wiggly or your Kroger or your Fred Meyer, your
Or your
Safeway
Costco.
your could be your QFC, whatever it is, and you get one of these pre-made, let's call it a sandwich. Let's say it's a sandwich I had the other day. It's a pretzel roll with with turkey.
You're a pretzel fanatic, dude.
I love the pretzels. I love the pretzel bread with the salt in the sandwich. Can't beat it. And you get the pretzel roll with the turkey, cheddar, and bacon. So let's look at that. That pretzel roll is made of wheat. Probably got some eggs in there, some salt. That salt was probably harvested by somebody in a third world country, and sent to the United States in a large ocean going container. The wheat could have been grown. It was typically would have been grown here in the United States. The eggs will be locally produced. There's a farmer, a chicken farmer, who's producing the eggs. There's a farmer who's producing that wheat. There's a salt harvester who's harvesting salt, who sends that. The turkey is coming from an animal that's raised in probably an industrial farm, probably by a conglomerate. That rarely is.
Yeah, but even those conglomerates, if you've watched some of the documentaries on chicken farming, for example, the conglomerate it's similar to kind of how the cacao supply chain works. Farming supply chains are similar. Even the conglomerates,
sure, they buy
meat
materials
from a lot of
farmers.
small independent farmers and aggregate it. Yeah,
and the cheese is made in a large industrial factory from milk that comes to that factory that was harvested on cows in some person's farm in Iowa or Utah or Wyoming or wherever it may be. There's a farmer behind all of that stuff, every darn bit of it. If you take that, extend that out to your the microwavable pack of noodles,
somehow or another,
it's all coming from a farmer at a certain level, all of it.
And to have enough land to farm and to have productive agricultural land, it's almost always remote too. Farms tend to be in big open, like unindustrialized, remote areas, which sort of inherently means that the infrastructure is different out there, and the access to certain resources that we're like city dwellers are accustomed to are
certainly in the poor third world. That's correct.
Especially even in the United States, but obviously
in many cases here.
It's not comparable.
I mean, there aren't really farms as small in the United States anymore as the type of farms that we're getting our cacao from.
In terms of size.
There are cacao farms where the plot of cacao could be, an acre or less, or a half an acre.
You're talking about in Peru.
Where we harvest. Yeah, we have some people where we'll buy, 10 or 15 kilos of cacao from them. That's a few dozen trees on a half-acre plot of cacao.
We're just buying a few $100 of cacao in that case too.
That's right. That's right. Like over a whole season maybe. And they've also maybe got some coffee. They probably have some cattle or pigs or something that they might sell on a Sunday market. But this is very small scale, very subsistence type farming in many ways. And then there are larger farmers that have accumulated, or families that have accumulated more land. But in no case would it even approximate what would be considered a very small farm here in the United States. That could even be economically viable.
Yeah, a bit. If I recall, a big farm out there would be like 10 to 15 acres.
Yeah. So let's see
hectares.
The hectare is 2.5 acres, and the biggest farm that I know of in our cacao purchasing area is probably 15 hectares. So that would be about little over 40 acres, which is considered. I mean, it was considered 100 years ago, 40 acres was considered the bare minimum for economic viability. Today, I don't think it would be considered economically viable.
Yeah, well, but back in the day, at least in the United States, the frontiers people, they were setting up land rights to thousands of acres of land. That's wild, dude. It's wild to think about. But anyhow, so with all that rain happening now, and we're in the middle of the harvest, we bought cacao. We're about to export a container. How's it going to look? How's it looking to get a container out of Puerto Ciruelo and the district of Warango right now?
So there's several questions there. The first is how's the cacao look? The cacao is actually looking fantastic right now. They had a really dry season
at the beginning.
Cacao trees like to be water stressed. So the really dry season causes them to throw a bunch of fruit. And then the early rains came in sort of just the right pattern. There was a lot of light rain at night, soaks in, doesn't wash off. There was a real good early development of the cacao pods. It's now gotten extremely rainy, and that's giving water, which juices up the cacao and adds a lot of meat to those cacao beans that are going inside the pods. So as of now, it's been a fairly robust harvest, lots of beans, fairly good quality, and a low disease year because that really good dry hot summer killed off a lot of the disease. So far from that respect, it's been good. Logistically, getting the beans from the farm to the processing facility is very difficult right now because the roads are extremely bad. When it rains a lot in Campo, the roads are bad. If it's bone dry, the roads
are already bad.
The roads are awful if it's bone dry, and it just gets worse from there.
These are just dirt roads.
These are dirt roads that, I mean, if you were to run a leveler across them and grade them out, they could be considered dirt roads. Until you grade them, they're just more like a collection of potholes that kind of all go in the same direction.
Yeah, but at least they're wide enough for like a car to drive down.
Yeah.
They're not paths, right? The people have tried to make roads out there.
There are roads. They're just a sort of a when people think of roads, they're certainly thinking of something in better conditions than these.
No, it's super rustic out there.
Ooh, boy,
it's really you're just in the countryside out there, going along a little dirt road. It's just all farms everywhere you look. And open countryside. That's it.
Yeah, you're gonna want good shocks on your car if you're gonna drive out there, or your kidneys are gonna feel it, and your car's not gonna make it. I mean,
how many times you fell off your motorcycle riding around on those roads, bro?
I don't know, maybe 20,
something like that. That's more times than a regular person falls off a motorcycle.
Mostly with a passenger. It's really tough to ride two up in the mud, and I'm not the best. So there's guys there that are way better motorcycle riders than me. But especially when I would have somebody heavier, Noe, your dad, who's just a big guy, or Noe, our partner, the president of the Cacao Growers Association, who's a robust gentleman.
That's polite. That's a polite way. That's polite way to put it.
Noe is a robust.
He's a big dude. Yeah, he's robust.
He has generous proportions. He's not tall, but he's generously proportioned.
Mm-hmm.
So having someone who weighs a little more, I just want to clarify. I mentioned our business partner, your dad, my stepdad. We're bros, and we have the same mom but different dad for people who are.
Yeah, that's why we have different last names. Yep.
That's right. So he's tall. He's tall and just big, strong guy, and he packs some weight on his frame. He's not robust. He's just a big guy.
You want to know? Dan's probably in his 70s when you're riding him around on the back of a motorcycle out in the jungle like that. Props to Dan, my dad.
Props to him for
our
getting
third
on.
Business partner. How many 70-year-olds, from 70 to 75?
He wasn't 70 when we started, but he was at certain times when we were.
No. He was 70 when we started.
I mean, I don't want to disagree with you on the age of our.
He was born in 1939, man.
Well, so I'm gonna have hold on. I'm gonna have to
get your calculator out, bro.
I'm gonna have to get my calculator, do some calculations. Well, let's agree to disagree.
He was in his 70s when you drove him around on the back of a motorcycle.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna argue the point with you.
That makes it more rad, dude. Like, it's unbelievable, Dan. How he both of our parents, like our mom, we have the same mom. Like, these guys aren't aging, and I think we're getting off track, but I think a big part of that is just because how many adventures they have and how active.
An adventurous spirit keeps you young. I think there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
All right, so we got to bring the cacao from the trees on these crazy dirt roads back to the facility. We do the processing,
and then they have to go.
Yeah.
Then they have to go just the way that we described getting into Campo. They have to go out along an hour and change. Now there's a bridge. Before the bridge, they had to go across the river on a ferry or sometimes a boat if the ferry was closed down.
How's the road? So you go from Puerto Ciruelo, which is like the port town that's on the Chinchipe River.
Right.
We take the cacao in like a big freight truck across the bridge.
And down the highway to High End.
The High End San Ignacio, right?
Yeah, that's the 5. That's the locally known as the 5.
And how's that road?
Better than it has been, but worse than many other roads in the world. It kind of varies with the weather. Right now with these rains, I'm guessing there are parts of it that are really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I got a message from Oscar just maybe like 3 weeks ago, basically, that said they're just trapped. in Warango. That road was just flooded over and they couldn't get down it. There was
Yeah,
there was rock slides and stuff, and that road just shut down.
So there's two problems. There are 3 or 4 places where that road can wash out very easily or collapse if the embankment kind of gets too wet, and that happens.
And collapsing is insane, man. A road collapsing is outrageous.
Yeah, so then they have to come in with a motor grader and kind of like carve out a bypass, through whatever's on the side of that washout. But typically it washes out because there's water there. So then you're trying to like go through actual running water, which is very dangerous. But there's even something worse, which is, and you'll recall this, right across the river from Puerto Ciruelo, there's a sheer cliff right on the side of the highway, and rocks. I mean, the rocks are falling off that cliff down onto the road at all times. Those rocks could be, the majority of those rocks are 1 inch to 3 or 4 inches big. But every now and then a rock that's 10 feet across falls down onto that road and kills them.
We paid for a couple of surgeries, right? Of guys who had a motorcycle crash up on top of that cliff.
Well, I think our last podcast that we did.
Did we talk about it in our last podcast?
No, we talked about Willie, a guy who's there who, or you may have written about it, but Willie, a guy who worked for us, was in a motorcycle accident caused by rockfall over on the highway across from Puerto Ciruelo, and he now has only one leg. And yes, we did assist with his surgeries and recovery, but man, oh man, that road is incredibly dangerous. Not to mention that there's constantly people, animals on it. Vehicles coming the other way in your lane, in the oncoming lane. It's a dangerous highway that suffers a lot when there's heavy rains.
Yeah, and there's villages all up and down that road that have to use that road to export whatever kind of agricultural products.
Right. And that just gets you to high end. Then
that just gets you to high end, and then you got to go back over.
Then you have to go to the coast. You have to go to the coast on the Belaunde, which is, when it's raining like this, is frequently shut down by mudslides. Very, very frequently shut down by mudslides. I personally have been in a bus traveling that road, or any vehicle traveling that road, and gotten trapped by mudslides 10 to 15 times, probably.
So that could be what we're looking at right now to get this cacao out.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's totally a likelihood.
Even if there's not an active mudslide, when they're doing the road work to clean up from the mudslides, that you could sit there for 4 hours waiting for them to allow traffic to pass, because they're using small bulldozers to move, and loaders to move what's essentially a pile of quivering water heavy mud it's basically like trying to move Jello, but a mound of Jello that's 40 feet high and 200 feet long.
And this is a 2-lane road snaking through the mountains.
Yeah. So
you just got this huge.
Well, the problem with moving Jello is that as soon as you take one scoop out of the Jello, the rest of the Jello just settles into the spot where you just took the scoop out of. So you've got to clear all the Jello from way up from there and way down from there, so that it doesn't just run right back into the road part. There's no road cut through quivery high water content mud that just hit a mudslide. So you have to clear 8 times the amount of mud that's just covering the road.
So you got to get a tractor out to wherever that little spot on the road is.
Yeah, well, and there's typically, if there's one of those mudslides, there's 6 of those mudslides. At each little creek, there will be a different mudslide, and they have to clear them sequentially. And if it's still raining, as soon as they clear them, more mud just slides. So the highway is treacherous. I have personally 3 times been trapped in between 2 mudslides at night on that highway in a bus, where all we could do was stop, and we tried to sleep overnight in the bus, listening to rocks fall all around us and mud sliding on either side of us, and wondering like which one of those big rocks falling down onto the road, or which one of those mudslides was going to be the one that took us out. It's not a fun experience.
And buses do get washed out on those roads. You hear about it all the time.
Yeah, all the
buses
time.
Just tumbling off. It's crazy. So when our wonderful listeners here enjoy some of our chocolate, just know every single shipment that comes out of Campo that ends up making the trip to the port so we can ship it over to Switzerland and have it made into chocolate is navigating this road during this time of year, like every single time.
That's right. And then so multiply that across the chocolate world as a whole. We're one tiny little project in a whole great big world.
And multiply that times food generally. And
That's right. So yeah,
Yeah.
think about all the rice and coffee that has to go out of there the same way. The
All
cacao that's
yeah.
coming from further east, all the way in the low basin, that has to do that all the way along the whole length of the Belaunde Highway. Not to mention the stuff that's coming out of central and southern Peru that has its own torturous, mind-blowing logistical journey to get out. It's really, and then as you say, multiply that by cacao, coffee, rice.
Well,
Peru
when
is
you
a
look at a
big
company
paprika. Peru is the world's biggest exporter of paprika, for example. And now paprika has its own torturous, crazy path that it has to go to in terms of harvesting it, getting it, sorted and processed, and then getting it into an ocean container. It's mind blowing when you think about the amount of work and suffering that goes into it.
Bro, did you see the new on a different topic? Did you see the new product that we have in the store, the quinoa chia bar?
I did. In fact, I have a little bit left of a half bar that.
What'd you think about that?
Javier, I love it. It's roasty. It's toasty. The texture. Now you know I'm big on texture.
I know you love texture. Oh yeah, it's great texture. Beautiful
texture.
texture.
The texture on this is fantastic. That crunch of that quinoa pop, the chia seeds that are in there.
The chia seeds give it a nice little herb, nice little herbal flavor.
It's got a fantastic. We're pairing it with our 47% dark milk, and it's a great bar. We made a nice pivot there from the human suffering.
Well, the reason why I bring it up though, but look, you take a bar like a 47% dark milk chocolate bar with quinoa and chia. I was just going to point out, like now you're talking about the quinoa supply chain, the chia supply chain. Those are both Peruvian products as well.
And quinoa comes from the high mountain environment. Quinoa comes from typically above like 7,000 feet in altitude, and cacao is almost exclusively below like 1,200 feet. So yeah, you're talking about two completely different ecosystems, completely different supply chains, and logistical nightmares to get it all in the same spot.
And we're going to be putting that quinoa bar online as well. So folks can just click a button and get all of these ingredients in one product, and we'll just mail it on over to you for $10.
That's right. So So just know that you're eating when you enjoy our chocolate, you're eating the misery that it took to get it.
You better darn well have some respect for that bar.
You better have some respect. You better eat it with reverence, people. Please, please. No, but
we want to dim the lights. Light some candles, put on classical music.
That's right.
Put some really contemplative music.
Ponder the effort that went into that. No, but logistics, man, it's much like we haven't touched on any of the other logistical segments that we touched.
And
let's not in this conversation, but
we can't run out of time. But
the agricultural products that are in the stuff we eat it really is mind-boggling. It boggles the mind when you think about the difficulty, the work, and the processes that go into getting it into the place it needs to be to make the dish that you're eating. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, and we're, like you said, we're just a small player. You start thinking of big companies like Costco or Walmart or Amazon. Like these guys distribute so much stuff. It does boggle the mind.
Yes, absolutely.
Bro, we're gonna run out of time here. Oh, I wanted to just say one other thing here. Mm-hmm. If you describe all that mud that falls on the road as Jello,
yes.
If it actually were Jello, you know who you call in to go clean that up?
Adam Pearson to go clean it up. He'd be like, "Hey, you gonna eat that Jello, guys? Hey guys, hey, there's a bunch of Jello on the road there. Can I hit that? Can I hit that Jello?
Are you guys gonna finish this?
Are you gonna finish this Jello? Because it's on the road. I assumed it was there for me to eat, but I don't know, man. You tell me.
All you need is me, dude. Roman.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I have to
just walking along that road, cleaning up Jello mudslides.
I have to say one thing about the stunning resilience of human beings, and in particular, poor Peruvians that live along the highway and go through these periodic floods and mudslides and things like that. Anytime you have a mudslide or a series of mudslides that are cutting off parts of the Belaunde Highway, you can be absolutely sure that within, I don't know, a few minutes of that mud solidifying just enough to support the weight of a human being going across it, there will be an old woman from the nearest little town rolling a food cart across the top of that mudslide to get over to where all the buses are trapped in between the two mudslides and start selling little chicken sandwiches, banana chips, sweet potato chips, popcorn. There is literally no time elapses between the event of a mudslide and the availability of snacks on the other side of that mudslide from the nearest little town so that the local population could take advantage of all those trapped bus travelers that are hungry and have nowhere else to go for their food. It is stunning how stunningly efficient and predictable how fast.
Dude, super courageous.
It's great. It's
And
so great. They literally, you can see people wheeling a little food cart with water and snacks and so forth across, and they want the commerce, they want the income, but they're doing a great service because the people on that bus don't have anything. They need water. It's hot.
That reminds me, there was one, I've read a bunch of books on marketing. I don't want to brag, but I read a lot of books. No big deal. That's neither here nor there.
Wow, so you know how to read. That's really impressive, bro.
Not only do I know how to read, I actually exercise that skill quite a lot. No problem. I know a lot of stuff. I don't want to brag. That's not what we're here for.
You're literate and knowledgeable. That's really, really impressive. Yeah.
But there was a marketing guy who was one of the best marketing guys in the world. Mm-hmm. And he said he has like he made a fake conversation to prove a point. And he says he's sitting around a table with two other marketing guys, and they're all supposing they're going to start a hamburger They're going to start a hamburger business. Mm-hmm. And they start talking about like, what are they going to each do to be successful? And the first guy says, I'm going to use the best ingredients. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make the world-class hamburgers. They're going to be the most delicious. And then the second guy says, I'm going to have a great ambiance. The experience is going to be the best. And then the third guy, who's the guy who's writing the book, says, I guarantee you my business is going to be more successful than both of you, because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find a hungry crowd. So this is what you said just reminds me. Look, there's a great business lesson in that too. If you go where there's just this really great need, you create these win-win relationships where people are really desirous of the product that you have. Mm-hmm. You don't really got to do a lot of selling or anything. You just are in the right place at the right time. There's a really good business lesson in that.
That is absolutely true. From the level of subsistence capitalism, which is just eking out a living, but the
fundamentals are the same.
The instincts that they show,
entrepreneurial instincts, and just the fundamentals of going where there's a great need. You could do business there.
Spot on, absolutely.
And the place where we're going to wrap it up here, but the place where quinoa grows at over 7,000 feet.
Yes,
that's like not a lot of stuff grows that high.
That's right.
So quinoa farmers also live in a pretty different kind of environment. It's not a jungle environment, but just an equally barren.
It's harsh. It's not barren, but there aren't trees.
It's not barren, but it's a harsh environment. But it's a harsh environment.
It's a harsh environment all the way from the cold, the wind, the soil, the seasonality of water, the high radiation from the sun up there, because at that high altitude, it's a tough life.
Yeah.
And quinoa farming.
We're putting it in chocolate, bro.
That's right. This is when I add to the misery index on those bars. So just to make sure everybody understands, there's a whole lot.
But the good thing is we've done a whole podcast about how much people should be, should have gratitude. So
that's right.
So we've done some what's the word I'm looking for? Penitence.
Penitence. I think those are both applicable in this case. Yeah.
We've done some of that. On this bar, so you could eat it. Just make sure you have proper gratitude, like I said.
We're doing it for you. Anybody who's listening who wants to enjoy that bar, you go ahead and enjoy it guilt-free.
We've done the penance.
We'll do the penance for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done it here. Absolutely. All right, bro. So before we sign off, is there anything else you want to touch on? Did you want to say anything about the San Diego State Aztecs basketball game before we sign off? Or you want to just leave that?
Oh boy, let me just tell you. I mean, I am a diehard San Diego State Aztecs fan, as you know, and we're recording this on the day after the national championship. Could not be prouder of the San Diego State Aztecs for making it to the national championship. Couldn't be more disappointed that they basically played their worst game of the year on their last game of the year. But that's the way it goes. There's only one team.
You know something, man? They got within 8.
They got within 5.
So they could have. They just needed some buckets to fall. They were right back in there.
Yeah, it was a brutal offensive game, and that's the wrap on the Aztecs. They just don't score the way they defend, and they ran up against they just ran up against a team that was on a march to destiny, and they played their hearts out. Their shots wouldn't drop, but man, they got further than any San Diego State team, and further than all but one other team in the whole United States of America. Couldn't be prouder of the effort, heart.
But even so, man, to be in a deep hole how they were, and to fight back to within 5, right. And you're probably just a couple of buckets going in to being right back in that game and getting the momentum in your face. Those guys are that's a resilient team. They came back in every game. They were down heavy in almost every single game that they came back and won.
They got the hearts of champions, and they're there's a lot going on there. I mean, some of those guys have undergone personal tragedies, family issues, siblings that haven't made it due to adverse conditions where they come from, and to fight through. And by the way, all those guys are pulling down top grades, doing everything they have to do academically. I could not respect the effort and the courage and the heart that those guys showed more than I do. I mean, they're just warriors.
I listened to an interview with the coach, and he said one of the things they always preach is to not get frustrated, like to always keep a level head.
That's right.
And no matter what, just execute. Don't even worry about the score. Just execute and let the results
next play.
Take care
they have
itself.
A mantra. Next play.
And that let them claw their way back into a bunch of games that they looked like they should have lost. So there's good lessons in that too. Like whatever's going on, just keep a level head. Next play, just execute. Right. You can find yourself digging your way out of some holes.
Is it better to be supernaturally talented or supernaturally resilient, Adam?
What do you think?
I'd say resilient.
I'd 100% resilient.
Absolutely.
Because you can never be perfect.
Right.
So even if you're really talented, you're never going to be perfect. So there's always going to be setbacks, no matter how talented you are. And if you're not resilient, then you probably just give up, no matter how talented you are, because you suck at dealing with failure. But if you're super good at dealing with failure, you're going to win eventually if you just keep going. So I'd way rather be more resilient.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, anyhow, they were resilient,
nice words,
and they played really well. And congrats to the University of Connecticut. If we have any listeners that are UConn Husky fans, congratulations. You guys won it fairly, dominating all the way through the tournament.
I like their head coach, dude. I like the head coach.
Yeah, there's nothing like I was angry with them last night, but I'm nothing but respectful today. They just did a better job, and they.
Dude, I was watching interviews with that head coach of the UConn Huskies.
He's a dude, man. He's got a
supremely confident.
Woo!
He's like, I just can't see how they're going to beat us. So
this is a guy who lost 6 of 8 in the middle of the season. So I mean,
whatever, man. That guy's supremely confident.
Oh, absolutely. He instilled it in his guys. So kudos to them. They played a masterful tournament and won it all. So they deserved it. They deserved it all the way. But oh boy, those Aztecs, they played hard. They got a lot of heart.
Yeah. All right, bro. Anything you want to add before we sign off here?
I'm just so glad to be back doing this. Let's do this regularly.
We're gonna do it every week. We'll make sure we do it every week.
We'll do it every week. And to everyone who's listening, if you haven't tried our chocolate before, please go to fortunatochocolate.com. That's FORTUNATO, fortunatochocolate.com. You can find a fair sampling of our products that we have available, where we have enough capacity to sell them online. And if you're anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, we'd love to have you come to Issaquah, Washington, about 15 minutes east of downtown Seattle, and come check us out at our retail store. You can find us on Google Maps. The address is also on the website, and we'd love to have you come in. We offer free hot chocolate every day, all day. In the warm months, we offer frozen bananas dipped in our chocolate.
And we're going to start serving ice cream during the summer as well.
We're going to have soft serve ice cream based on flavor combinations based on our chocolate. We offer free samples of all our products available there in the store. And, we just can't express enough our appreciation for all the people that are listening, that write to us, that buy our products, that love our products, that let us know how much they love them. We couldn't be more appreciative, because without you guys, none of this would even be.
Yeah, we got, can you believe we have 5,000 5-star reviews online or something like that? I mean, it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And
if you want to come hang out with the Chocolate Bros in person, Saturday morning is when we're in the shop.
We work an owner shift. We work an owner shift on Saturday morning in our main retail store. And we just, again, it's so heartening to deal with people, to meet and speak with the people that are coming in and just loving our products. And we have some super fans that come in just to chat with us every week. Oh man, it just fills me up to the brim. It fills my tank up for the week to come, for sure.
It really does. It really does. So thank you all for listening. And I guess that's it. And we'll check you on the next podcast.
And we thank you very much for tuning in.
Hey, hit us with the jingle on the way out.
Fortunato, wow. No, I did it wrong.
Yeah,
Fortunato, yum.
It's only 2 words, dude.
I forgot the jingle.
Fortunato, wow.
I got 50% of the words wrong. Hold on. Fortunato, yum. That's it.
Well, Fortunato, wow. Come on, man. We're professional. We're professional chocolate people. Wow.
Well, I mean, we're professional chocolate people, but my jingle skills clearly have atrophied.
All right, man. We'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.